I'm Caroline, and today we're going to be making some Halloween decorations. I can't wait to get started. I've been collecting Halloween bits and pieces for a while now. It's time to use them all up. Right, no time for chatting, let's get on with crafting. For this craft, we're going to make something that looks really good, but takes a minimum of effort because sometimes we haven't got all the time in the world. We will have some technical projects, but this one's quite easy. So I've got this lamp or lantern. This is my rook. Well, it's not my rook, it's my son's rook. I borrowed him. He's a little bit tatty on the edges. And sorry, my head is out of shot. It's the only way I can get the table in completely. So I can either coop down like this, or you just have to... I look a little bit like Frankenstein's monster with my head chopped off, don't I? There you are. Very suitable for Halloween. Right then. This lantern cost me £3 in a charity shop. So it's worth checking out the thrift stores because more and more of these lanterns are coming in second hand now. So you'll be able to pick one up at a real bargain price. It may take you a few weeks to find one, but you'll get there in the end. I'm going to turn this around. I've got it on my Lazy Susan. Oh, it makes life so much easier. Open the back. The inside is quite simple. I got this ivy. I had loads of it. Somebody gave me a whole wall of ivy. So they didn't want it anymore, so I got plenty. I love being able to use as much as I want and not have to scrimp. Take my rook, and this is a tight squeeze. This is a very large rook. If you haven't got a big lantern like this, you can always go for a crow. It would be 2/3 of the size, much better. Make sure he's facing front as much as he will. I've got to keep his tail in as well. And close my lantern up and he's done inside. If I can close the lantern, there we go. I'd have to put my glasses on now because I can't see what I'm doing. Right, so there we have our rook. You're not really facing front, but you're front enough. Move him over there. And now I'm going to get some florals. And we're going to make a flag for the top of this. So for the flag, I'm going to have a longer bit coming down and a shorter bit going up. Look at that, I've had these for about 3 years now and I just haven't known what to do with them, and I've finally come up with a plan. So this is going to be coming down like that on the side, and I thought this would be perfect behind it. What's the transformation? Whoops, I'm losing my flowers. What's the transformation when I add this? Oh, look at that. Wow, that's really flamboyant. So I'm going to wire this together. I've got one of the leaves that fell off, so I'm going to use that to wire it together. Yeah. Might as well make the most of everything. And don't forget, if you've got any type of hand problems, you can twist off these wires using pliers, and it's so much easier. And it'll just keep those in place while we try adding other things, because otherwise this is so wiggly and jiggly, I'm going to end up dropping bits out of it and things. And now wire some top flowers together, and I've got this purple flower which reflects the purple on the bottom, so even though these flowers are not in the bottom bit, there is that tie between both ends. Just tie those three together. A little bit of a twist. It's a lot easier with a pipe cleaner. Much gentler on your hands. Like that. And now, I'm going to take the two, check out the height on them. And yep, now I'm going to thread these through the back of this. It just gives you that extra bit of stability. Just checking on my monitor to see that it's in the right place. And then I'm going to add these to the front there, quite low. And take my pipe cleaner and give it a good wind. So that's going to hold it in place for me while I get another pipe cleaner. I know, I do love to be very careful with these things and make sure they're not going to wander off. And then this one I can actually do with a twist, because the two ends are sticking out, if you see what I mean. Like that. And I'm just going to leave those ends, if I show you. I've left the ends longer there because I may decide to wire something else in. I don't want to cut them now and think, oh, we still have a bow to go on yet. So now I'm going to see where I can pop these things. Oops, black pampas grass. And I shouldn't, in theory, have to glue these in because they're so fine they'll slip in between all the other joints. Don't worry about this, that'll be hidden. So if I'm doing one at the top, I'll put one in at the bottom, give it a bit of symmetry. Like that. And at the front of this one, I think I'm going to stick that one in like that. Don't worry about planning exactly where your florals are going to go up beforehand, because the fun is deciding. Fun isn't always trying to get them to fit in the holes that you've got. If you want to, you can use a little bit of florist foam or something, put a block of that on and actually put them into the florist foam. This does not want to go in. And just add a few more because they're so lovely. You can use hot glue if you like, but I'm hoping to recycle this lantern over and over. So I want as little glue as possible. And also my florals I tend to recycle. When I finish them, in my little spare flower pot they go until next time I need them. And now we've got to stick some in the top. And they're rather long for the top, but that doesn't matter because if we get some extended length, it'll look more glamorous. Oh yes, it's looking especially nice at the top. And another one coming down there. You want at least 3 of these because they're not terribly thick, as you can see. And you don't want this to look like a stingy display. So if you put like 5 in instead of 3, it'll make it look much better. I'm just going to add another one either way because I happen to have them here and I'm just wondering how nice they look. Yep, I like that, but don't panic that you can see all this. It's all going to disappear because now we're going to move this over there. Oh, that's not very good, is it? I'm going to turn it around so it's not in my face. And I'm going to bring over some ribbon. Now I'm going to make a bow. I don't want big tails on this, so I'm just leaving a little end. Pinch where my loop is big enough. I think that's plenty big enough. Twist it and then make a loop the other side. Pinch and twist. And then go alternately until you've got enough loops that you're happy with. Remembering that you're going to be putting other ribbon as well. So you don't want to overdo it. Unless you like overdone ribbons. I tend to be on the flamboyant side, as you know. Therefore, I think I'm going to do a 5 loop for this one. Find my scissors. Chop it off. Make sure you twist your end so that the good sides are facing outwards. Unfortunately, this one isn't wired. But I think it's still going to look good. I got this when I was in France last year. 59 cents, not 59 euros, for the roll. Drop my ribbon on the floor. It's much easier to work if you drop it. Now this one I want to leave a tail on. So I'm going to put a nice hanging tail. Your loops shouldn't be too big if you're using a non-wired ribbon because you haven't got the strength in the ribbon to make it stay loopy. And also what I find is if you put a little twist before you pinch and come back, it just gives them a little bit more body. And you're constantly going from side to side so that you can put your wire or pipe cleaner through the middle and it will hold all your loops in. You don't want to put it in and then find out, uh-oh, I didn't actually get all my loops where the join was going to be. Snip that off and now I'm going for my thin ribbon. Now that one was nice and easy and I could twist it because it's double-sided. This is not double-sided, but because it's so thin it'll hold its shape. You can keep your ribbon on your table if you like. But the problem you've got is it tends to roll up and curl up and it's very difficult to use. I'm not a fan of using ribbon without wiring for bows. Unless you're just doing a simple bow. This sort of bow does look better with a wired ribbon, but I just love these ribbons. So I thought it was worth the effort. Take your pipe cleaner. Put it through the centre so you know you've got every loop. Bring it round to the back. And twist to tie it off. And now fluff it out. I do love a bit of bow flooping, and as you can see by making smaller and smaller loops, the thinner the ribbon goes, the nicer the look it gets. Don't worry about tugging and pulling at this, it won't hurt as long as you tied your wire tight enough, they're not going anywhere. And now attach this over the ugly bit. And as you can see, this definitely needs re-floofing. Always start with your back floofs, and then work your way forward. You don't have to have these identical lengths. Sometimes when you're making a floral arrangement you want both ends to be exactly the same, but I quite like the idea because it's a Halloween one to make it a little bit edgy, a little bit not so neat and tidy. Now I am going to make one major change here because something I didn't take into consideration, that rook, you're losing his head behind all the florals. So I'm going to take him out. It's easily fixed. Pop him in that way. Oh, there we go. You comfortable? Yes, thank you. And now if I stand out of the way so you can see the white behind, look at that. And I absolutely love that. So let's see what this looks like on my display. enjoying this video so far, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and why not subscribe? We got lots more videos like this coming your way. For this craft, I'm going to use this red Vela skull. Now, he's not mine, so I can't glue him onto anything, so we're going to have to balance precariously because I have to return him to my son when I've finished. Right, I've taken this basket, which happened to be, if I put it on his head, a perfect fit at the top here with probably a centimetre extra. So I drew around this on a piece of card and cut myself out 2 pieces of card and glued them together just to make them a bit tougher because they were a bit bent. I then measured around the outside of this basket because it's wider and cut that out, cut a circle out in the middle, the same size. Well, one of these is from the centre of this. Don't forget to mark your pieces back on both sides, front on both sides, on every bit, because you'll never remember. Believe me, I've lost count of where I was a few times with these. Get yourself a piece of cardboard. This is a 4-inch piece because it's how tall I want the hat to be. If you want a better description of how to make a cardboard hat, I've made cardboard hats for adults. I'll put the link in the description and at the end of this video. So if you click on that link, you'll see how to make one for an adult. Slit down with a craft knife in between each of the corrugations. It just makes for a nicer bend. Look at that. Out with your glue gun. Where's the back? There. You probably end up putting too much glue in because if you're making an adult hat, if you're making an adult hat, you would have doubled the width of the cardboard on the bottom. But then I think it's going to be a bit cumbersome for such a small hat, so I haven't. But when this is doubled, it's a lot easier to do. It's only a single width, so it's very difficult to get glue where you want it. And I'm not very good at getting glue where I want it at the best of times, so this could get messy. Put the cardboard inside the brim, if you see what I mean. Curl it up a bit if it's in your way, and then slowly work your way around. Don't rush this part. Try to see it as therapeutic, and you'll do a better job if you take your time and make sure you've held this until the hot glue has cooled. Now I'm going to cover the hat with some fabric. Now I'm using some serviettes that I had. They were from a picnic set that I was never going to use, so I thought, well, why not use them for crafting instead? And then pop some hot glue on the fabric. Be careful here because the hot glue will come through the fabric and burn your fingers. And then poke that into the inside. Oh, like that. That's how you burn yourself. And I've done really well because out of this one serviette, I'm actually going to be able to cover this too. That's going to be interesting, but I think I'll just about do it. Don't worry about the inside of this hat if it doesn't look neat, unless you're selling it, in which case you have to do a little bit of a better job. But I'm not, so I can just enjoy myself. So we got back here and back there, so it goes in that way. And that, in theory, is going to fit on there. A nice snug fit because we've got the fabric on it as well. I'm hoping, yep, it lines up perfectly with the outside of the hat. So now, oops, that needs a little bit more glue there. Ooh, I'm really pushing it to use this piece of fabric, but I'm going to make it work. I'm determined. Check back again. As you can see, it really is essential to mark front and back on every piece. And when it cools, I can then pop the front into place. If you use a thinner fabric than mine, you may find that you need to pop it inside the hat. On the other hand, if you use a thicker one, you may find it has a little bit more of an overlap. So be aware of that. Whatever fabric you use will affect the size of your top. Stick it all the way around. And if you're having trouble getting it into place, pop your hand inside the hat and it gives you more manoeuvrability on the top of the floppy, sticky up bit. That's not what it's called, is it? Does anybody know what the big sticky up bit is on a hat? I'm sure there's a name. Is that the crown? Oh, now I'm going to pop it down. Keeping a bit of pressure on it because it's still quite hot. And I'm just going to run some little bits of glue around just to be doubly sure that it doesn't come wandering off. I've got this old page out of a book. It's an old book of maps, but it's not that old. It's like sort of 80s. Nothing special. So I've been using pieces of paper out of it to do some craft with. And this map, I think, is going to look great torn up to cover the brim. Now, you can cover the brim with fabric. Sorry if this is a bit noisy while I'm tearing. You can cover the brim with fabric if you want to, or you can paint it. Painting would probably be the easiest job. But I fancy something a little bit different. Out with a glue stick, and let's start gluing. So now that's finished, it looks a bit stark where I've torn it, so I'm going to get my ink pad. See, I picked this up for 30p in the charity shop. Use one of these finger daubers so you don't get too much everywhere, and just give it a light going over. It'll just hide all the really white stark marks and give it a bit more interest, I think, as well. Put a bit of depth to the design. Don't worry about doing this too evenly. Well, unless you want it even. I'm going for the sort of rustic look, almost aged. This skeleton has been wearing this hat for so long, it needs a good clean. Now I've got this black cord. I'm going to put this around the hat and it hides the joins. I love using this. Hides everything. Check which way the hat fits best on your skull, just in case you've done it the wrong way. That way's best for me, I think. If I'd realised that, I would have made the fabric join at the other side. But it'll be okay. He's a very tolerant skeleton. If you're using this cord, make sure you've got some glue then on the end so it doesn't fray. I like that. For a stand, I'm going to use this, I'm not sure what it was. I don't think it was a candle holder. It may have been. And I painted it black for a previous project. I've got some pool noodle. So I'm going to glue the pool noodle. I cut this with a saw. A saw is a really good way of cutting a pool noodle. And if I put it in my, this is a square, they call it, a box, you know, that gets you to cut things straight. Then you get the edges straighter than if you're doing it by hand anyway, or by eye. Glue it into place. Now normally I would glue this on top, but as I said, I'm not going to do that because it's not actually mine. So now I need to cover this piece of foam with flowers. If you're going to be doing a lot, cut them all at the same time, because if you cut them one at a time, it'll drive you bananas. I've also got some of this black foliage, black and silver, look at that. It's a shame I haven't got more. It's a bit frustrating, but I'll make it work. So first thing I'm going to do is put a ring of flowers, a ring of roses, covering the top third. And I'm going to go opposites first to see how many I'm going to need. There's 8 around the top. These pool noodles make brilliant florist foam. Now the head is going to be on there, so you're only going to see a tiny bit around the neck there, so I'm not worrying about that at the moment. We can fill that in when we put it all together and assemble it. So now in the bottom third, I'm going to put another row of roses. But if I show you, a bit like bricklaying, you're going to put the whole roses where the gaps are. Now I'm going to take these white pampas grass and I'm going to poke the pointy bit at an angle downwards, and then it'll give it more of a curvy droop. And I'm not going to go all the way around because this is going against the wall. But if you're going to use this as a centerpiece on a table, can you imagine how wonderful that would look all the way around? Then I'm going to take these silver grey foliage and put these in the middle gap. If you're only doing mainly the front, then focus on getting the front done if you haven't got enough, because the rest won't be seen when it's against the wall. Better to overfill the front than sparsely fill it all the way around. And now I've got some feathers, various sizes. I'm going to poke these in above the roses. Again, focusing on where the front of the decoration is. And put your largest ones towards the back. And these are going to form like a collar around the neck of your skull. Now cut yourself some pieces of 6-inch ribbon. Fold your ribbon in half, pinch the bottom, get some pipe cleaner, twist it around. This is definitely better with florist wire. Because I haven't got florist wire, I'm going to snip the pipe cleaner short and then glue it to the top there. It doesn't look very neat, but don't worry about that because it's never going to be seen. And now that works like a collar all around your skull. And pop the hat on. And we're done. So let's see what this looks like. up on my display. For this craft, we're going to use power tools. Oh, I love using power tools. I'm going to take 3 Jenga blocks. Because this project isn't going to take a lot of wear and tear or swinging on, you could get away with hot glue, but I'll show you the best way to stick wood together. If you get yourself some wood glue, I got this, what's this? Gorilla wood glue. I'll put a blob on each end, because wood glue, something magic happens to it when you put it on wood, and it actually changes into some sort of weird compoundy thing where it becomes wood, and it's a very good join, but it takes forever to dry. So if you then put a blob of hot glue on the middle and push them together, they'll be pretty good to go virtually immediately because of the hot glue, but long term you got yourself a really tight bond. I'm going to join 3 of these. So again, just a blob of wood glue either side, a blob of hot glue in the middle. And if you put it on the table, you're more likely to get it straight. I know, I need all the help I can get. When you've finished using your wood glue, I always give the top a clean before I push it down, and then give it another clean again when I pushed it down. And sometimes still I have to use pliers to open it. It's terrible for sticking the lid down. Now I've got this doll's leg. I cut the top off, and I'm going to use this as a stand. So the first thing I need to do is to fix it to the wooden blocks. So I'm going to get my pen, and I'm going to mark 2 places where I want a hole. Under the back and under sort of the middle of the front. I'm going to use my magic desktop saver because it stops you drilling through straight into the desk. I'm just going to grill with my glue gun then. It's been a long day. It's in the evening now. And then drill yourself a hole. And another one. And as you can see here, I've saved my desk many times. And we've now got 2 holes. I've got 2 rather rusty screws, but that's not a problem. These are going to go through the bottom there. There's my screwdriver. Screw them in. I'm not using 2 small screws. It would be tempting to put little ones in, but I think that to really make this foot sit, they need to be a little longer. Maybe I've overdone it, we'll find out. When they're sticking through a bit, pop your foot where you want it to go. And give it a good push. And it'll make 2 little holes. Use your pokey thing and make the hole a little bit bigger. But there we go, and you haven't, even if they're getting a bit stiff to screw in, which mine are, then it doesn't matter if they're not quite as tight as they could be, because that'll all be hidden. Now this is going to be going in here. So I'm going to pop it in, see how it's sitting. Because the bottom of my cage is a little bit uneven, I'm just going to glue this little half circle of wood, or half wooden bead. Ow, try not to drop it glue right down onto your fingers. Onto there, just to give it that little bit of support because of the dip in my cage. And now before we go any further, I suppose I should have done this first of all really, shouldn't I, to give it more time to dry. I'm going to do some painting. So I'm going to paint this bird black. As you can see, it's been painted a few times before. It's very fulfilling to paint something completely a different colour. It's like painting a wall. If ever you painted a wall and tried to just top up the colour on your wall, have you ever noticed how difficult it is? I really don't enjoy that. But if you have it a completely different colour, it's easier to do and it looks fabulous. You don't have to use a bird for this. You can pop any animal in really. You could put in a rat. And what you put the bird on doesn't matter. Like I'm putting this on something creepy, but you could put it just on a weird shaped branch. Or if you've got something big like a rat, you could just put him on some pebbles or something like that. Now we need to deal with this foot. And for this foot, I'm going to use some paper to stuff it first because I want to be able to glue something to the top. And it's very difficult with just this thin edge. And also it'll give it a bit more weight. I'm going to stuff this with paper. I suppose if you've got shredded paper, probably a shredder, if you've been shredding all your bills, only private letters, you could use those. would go in a bit easier if it was shredded, but not so easy to glue things to. I'm going to stuff this quite firmly. I found this, there was an old tree that had died and the bark was just left there rotting into the ground, and I thought, well, I can use some of that. So I just picked it up, brought it home, and there are little bits of like cobwebs and things on it. For Halloween, I think that's perfect. I'm going to glue this onto the foot. So decide which way I want it to go. I think facing the same direction as the foot will be good. And then here we go. I'm going to fill up lots and lots of areas with hot glue. Make sure I get some on the leg as well. And pop it on the top. Now that's going to take a while to cool down now because it's so thick. The thicker you put on your hot glue, the longer it takes to cool. So now I'm going to put my foot into the cage. So coming from the back, I'm going to go from the outside to the inside with the string of lights. But leaving this on-off switch on the outside. So now wrap the wires around the foot, then get some fibre fill, and then put it over the bottom bit of wood that the foot is attached to and over the bulbs. And I'm going for a really subtle look. If you want to have a stronger look, put your lights on top of the fibre fill, but I just want it to be ever so slightly glimmering and glowing. When your bird or whatever you're using is completely dry, then you can either leave it like it is, but I'm going to put like highlights of little bits of silver on him. Oh, let me show you. This is, oh, it's on the lid here, metallic gilding polish. I'm going to give him quite a coating. I'm not just going to do the highlights, but I don't want to have him completely covered because I want it to look like he's a little bit spooky, but not completely spooky. I want him to have mainly silver with some gold showing through, but it would look equally as good if we just put a tiny bit of silver on. It's just I love gilding base. As soon as I get started, I know it's no good me saying I'm just going to put a bit on because I get addicted to this. If you think you put a bit much on, before it's dry, you can just give it a little bit of a rough rubbing over just to take some of it back off. And now, just to give it a bit of depth, I'm going to come back in with some black and go over the silver, just with little blobs, a little bit of dry brushing. Not a lot at all. And as you can see, it just takes the edge off a bit from the silver. And it also gives it more depth, I think, by doing it like that. And now in the ideal world, you let him dry, but you know me. I must love getting paint on my hands because I'm not going to let him dry. I'm going to glue him into place because we need to move on with the video. Got to get this done before bedtime. So pop a lot of glue. And I advise you check first where you want him to go or whatever you're doing before you put the glue on. Too late now. And then put him where he's going. Like that. So when you shut the lid, take a few little bits of some dark colours, blacks, purples, or whatever colour it is you think will go best. I'm going to use dark because I painted the bird dark, but don't make this too big because if you do, you're not going to see the bird. So you just want a nice little neat looking display at the top. I've got this that someone sent me. It's a little decoration of something. You can see the elastic still on there, but you certainly don't have to spend a fortune on new embellishments. You can find little bits and pieces around the place, maybe broken bits off dresses, anything like that. You can't see what this is like, but it doesn't matter because we're going straight to my dresser and have a look what it looks like forward facing. Let me know if you like it, and don't forget to let me know which is your favourite. Well, wasn't that fun? I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love making Halloween crafts. I love making crafts on just about any occasion. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And before you leave, don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you all next time. But until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye.